Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Look, I'm not going to talk long, but this message is more important even than other messages I've spoken before. And let me just start, if I may, by calmly telling you all that there isn't evidence to support the notion that the universe just came together with no designer. We just can't look up and directly see who it is that designed it. And so one extreme is atheism. The opposite extreme is blasphemy and insulting God. And included in that is this notion of calling yourself God, especially when you're so human and so limited. And I'm going to say that these are things that we black folks are going to have to just step around and avoid. You're not going to start believing what I believe just because I believe it. I know that. But let me remind you and advise you to at least refrain from insulting God, claiming to be God, or saying that he ain't there because you don't see him directly and he's not coming down and solving all of our problems. To be honest with you, God does not do that for other groups of people either. Now, he may test them a lot less. That seems to be the case depending on which group of people it is. There are others he tests about as much as he tests us, or they're going through as much as we're going through, even if the tests are not directly, even if their hardship are not even tests that he sent, but rather just from their enemies. Whichever the case is. I listened to a man insult God and claim he doesn't exist, and I wanted to say, which one is it going to be? First thing, before I go into atheism, let me remind those of us that claim to be God or goddess or gods or goddesses. You need medical attention at some point, and you have needed medical attention at some point. You were conceived and created from substances coming from mom and dad, the likes of which you would beat the snot out of somebody if they went and wiped on your arm. You're made from it, but you would knock someone out if they wiped it on your arm, and you'd be understood for doing it. You'd be right. What kind of insult is that? You don't go and grab a lady's discharge from her drawers and wipe it on me. You best not wipe a man's discharge on me. I myself would do something to harm you. And if you win that fight, I would become the T word just to make sure you don't get away with it. But I was, like everybody else, conceived and created from it. Someone wrote in our very selves the knowledge of right and wrong, and we have a similar understanding of it. Almost identical senses of right and wrong. Now, who did that? I mean, as different as any two individuals are, psychologically speaking, how do we have this understanding universally? Who wrote that into us? You want to sit up and say that we are that being? We didn't create ourselves. And we have very little control over how our existence is going to be while we exist here. And we want to sit up here and act like we're just so divine. Now, there are others who say that there is no deity. I'm not dealing with them right now. That's another recording. But let's talk about those of you that say you are such a deity. What are you, a God with a doctor's appointment? A God that has to go to the restroom? A God that must eat? A God that must drink more often than you eat? A God that must sleep? That's what you are? Most of you can't even control your weight, men or women. You don't get to decide the minimum you're going to weigh because you don't decide your height. You see? And these things aren't even your fault. You're human. That's fine. But black folks who preach this stuff need to get a grip and come to accept their humanity. See, we want to be humanized amongst other people. Well, that means being humanized. I don't want to go too long into this. Take forever, but thought I would take this time and remind us. Ain't but one God. Ain't never been but one. And we ain't it. We can conquer other groups of people, and we've done it at times, but not without the use of at least a paramilitary, if not a military. And the same thing in reverse. We've been conquered by other groups, but they've needed at least paramilitaries, if not outright militaries, to do it. We do not send the wind or waves or tsunamis or earthquakes to conquer on our behalf, because we ain't God. We're human beings, and that's perfectly okay. Come to grips with that. Thanks for listening. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout. Assalamu alaikum. And as usual, black, heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it, and black patriarch until extinction or judgment day.